Do you remember the scene in Godfather when older Corleone brother Fredo got taken out in the little fishing boat and was executed? Well, this week, Chris Cuomo of CNN, who has been called Fredo, which is a name he hates, by the way, being labeled a not-so-smart brother, well, he was pretty much put in the little fishing boat by CNN CEO Jeff Zucker and taken out to meet the fish. Yeah. It seems that CNN star anchor had not been telling the truth about how much help he had given to his brother Andrew, who at the time was battling to keep his job as New York governor after he was accused by a crowd of credible women for sexual harassment, as well as having lied about his actions in the early days of COVID that resulted in the deaths of some 15,000 elderly New York nursing home residents. Well, the CNN anchor admitted only to having talked to his brother and given him some PR advice. Well, it was a bit more than that, according to email and text records, which were released by the New York Attorney General. And it reflected such a whopper that even very liberal news outlets like The Atlantic and Rolling Stone were calling for him to be fired. Now, that's kind of tough since Cuomo has the highest ratings on the entire channel. Not that that's a whole lot to brag about, because CNN has lost about 70% of its audience just since January. And on its best night, it has such a pitifully small audience that the only thing that saves them is that it's on in airports and in waiting rooms at the proctologist's office. That's basically it. Now, President Biden, he's not having a great week either. Several federal judges have shut down his vaccine mandates from being implemented. And he's having a hard time explaining why he thought President Trump was a xenophobe and a racist for having shut down travel from China when COVID first hit. Now Biden has just imposed a travel shutdown of people coming from several African nations. The only conclusion is that then candidate Biden really didn't believe President Trump was a racist and a xenophobe, or else President Biden, by his own definition, is in fact both a racist and a xenophobe. It's got to be one or the other. And where are those dimwits from the so-called Lincoln Project who pretended to be better Republicans than those of us who voted for President Trump, and these folks, they're the ones that supported Joe Biden because they assured us he wouldn't send out any mean tweets, and he was so experienced he would bring the adults back to the White House. Oh, yeah. Well, instead, we got the highest gas prices ever, grocery up by 20%, and we've had more COVID deaths in 2021 than in all of 2020, despite that we have a vaccine and supposedly a much better understanding of how to treat the disease. Now, the Bible says that pride goeth before a fall, and the fall of some of the most arrogant experts is proof that pride indeed leads to an epic collapse of credibility. Now, be assured, I don't take any pleasure in the mess the country is in. I truly do not. I honestly would be happier if Joe Biden were actually leading the country to continued energy independence, strong and controlled borders, increased pay for workers that they get from their actual work rather than it coming from government subsidies and handouts, and charity and clarity in our foreign policy as it relates to Israel, Iran, China, and Russia. But because it doesn't appear we have strong leadership, my heartbreak is for that single mom out there who pumps $5 of gas into her car, not because it's all she needs, but because it's all she can afford. I fear for that elderly couple who won't be able to afford their medicine this month because their groceries are taking all they have just to survive. If there is one piece of good news from this week, it's that maybe we won't have Fredo, or Chris Cuomo, telling us what a great and honest journalist he is. And we now know for sure that CNN stands for the Cesspool News Network. Now, if you're seeing this, I know you've enjoyed that video. I mean, how could you not, after all? So, you know what you should do? Leave a like, click on the subscribe button below, and hit the notification bell next to it so you'll always know when I have another video up for you to enjoy.